Hello. Okay, so I am starting with my argument that if you voted for Trump, you must be racist. Now, there are a couple of arguments, counter arguments against me that you may have, and uh, one of them is that, possibly, well, minorities voted for Trump as well. Well, according to BBC News, uh, exit polls, 53% of men voted for Trump, 42% of women, 58 of which were white voters, 8% of which were black voters, and 29% of Hispanics. So, as you can see, black voters are visibly the lowest according to these BBC exit polls, and that probably has a lot to do with allegations of Donald Trump refusing housing to Black residents at his apartment buildings, or I mean his condos rather, and just things like that. Now, of course, some minorities would vote for him, but I believe that they still hold some racist beliefs to support him, and so in that sense, it may be an internalized racism, but we can firstly see by those numbers how it's not fair to say that just because a few minorities voted for Donald Trump, that that doesn't mean that they aren't internalizing the kind of racist rhetoric that he's built his platform on, and is continuing to talk about as he's in office for this position of president of the United States.
Right. So I'm assuming that you might be able to hear me. I can't tell really. Right. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm first going to rebut the argument which was first brought out and then provide my own. So when addressing the issue about whether, like, obviously I do agree that a lot of those individuals who voted for Trump are probably white men, are probably white individuals, and not so much minorities. But the one thing which I just want to point out here and just be very clear is that many of these individuals also did vote for Barack Obama in the past. And the one thing which I want to say is that it's either these individuals are not racist, or if they are, somehow they just became racist since the 2012 election, which is the one thing which I don't want to don't think it's possible, right? Places in Florida, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania. These are all the flip states. So I think in this context, it's more to the issues in which these both individuals have, or like Trump has, which probably won him the vote, and why voter bases will go with that. The first thing I want to start off is just basically just let's just understand that he is a Republican candidate. And throughout the primaries, many of these individuals didn't want to vote for Trump. Many of these individuals tried to make sure that he didn't win it in the first place. But at the point in which he continued to win, that's a point in which many individuals had to make the decision. It's either I vote for Trump or I vote for Clinton. And at the point in which they have to make this decision, I think a lot of these individuals are going to just go with the Republican lines they have been brought up, they lived with, and they're probably either in worst case scenario peer pressure into. So many of them had to vote for Trump either way. Also, I don't think I have that much time to continue next argument, but I would like to just highlight from this point on, all my arguments will be just comparing Trump to Clinton and Trump's general information he has, and then to see based on that whether it's race based or whether it's not race based. And my thumbs up there.
Okay, so my response to your statements would be that okay, it does make sense that a lot of people voted for Barack Obama who then voted for Trump, but I think that's because these people were kind of misled by this information. And again, even if you are voting for Trump for any other reason, you really can't ignore the fact that he did promise to build a wall to keep Mexicans out of America. He did promise to do a travel ban on Muslims and things like this. That is blatant. That is blatant discrimination, definitely, and I would say that's blatant racism as well. And I think that him making generalizations as well about large cities like Chicago and saying that they're war zones and etc. I mean, they are dangerous areas, but I think that it's kind of he likes to represent kind of non-white populations in a very stereotypical light. And I think that even though it may be considered more of a microaggression and less of blatant racism, but also, voting is an active thing that you have to do. You have to travel and cast your vote, and that matters. And at the end of the day, if you're supporting a candidate who has turned away Black folks for housing, who says that he's going to build a wall to keep Mexicans out, that Mexicans are rapists, that they steal and things like this based off of the colors of people's skin and their countries of origin, and that all Middle Eastern folks are terrorists. These kinds of beliefs are just unacceptable. And so actively voting for that person, yes, I believe would make you racist as well, because you are affecting racism happening actively.
Right. So in response to the idea that that if Trump said these people are like they have travel ban and like just hate these individuals, then you have to be racist. I'd just like to first point out that this is more to whether the vote way. So Trump will obviously use the most racist things in order to garner the attention which he needs, and I think that he did it amazingly well, though I disagree with it. But let's just highlighting a few issues, right? I actually do have national security and information as one of my points. The first thing I'd like to point out is that you can't deny the fact that national security is an important issue for many individuals. Orlando shooting, the San Bernardino shooting, the general climate of national security in America, especially in certain southern areas where he got most voter base, is very violent and has a lot of crime. When it comes to this, right, you can see the problem here is that the information and the way the information is then disseminated towards these individuals is done in a very biased way, naturally by the media. At that point, it's me not having the information in the first place to actually see things in a proper light, or the entire discussion which I have, which is racist and in its nature, doesn't mean I'm a racist. It just means I don't have the proper information. If all I've been hearing is, and especially if you're in southern states, that Mexicans are the ones who did this. If you look at the Orlando and like San Bernardino shooting, and it is Muslims, and they do tell you, and the discussion is that the Muslims are the ones doing this, that information naturally believes that I am going to, think that these individuals are at fault. So also, I think that it's safe to say that many individuals saw the wall and the travel ban being an active step towards national security, something which Clinton wasn't necessarily doing really well because of this email scandals. They felt that their national security had been breached by someone who probably just leaked out all these emails or whatever would happen in that issue. And then just in a comparative between Clinton and Trump, Trump is the one who actively is trying to do something and actively is, even if it's not politically correct, actually just saying that he's going to do something. And I think that's more important given the fact that Clinton probably just.
I wanna kind of point out two things. Firstly, that you know, it's confusing in itself. You're saying people are misinformed, and a lot of different media news outlets may be very biased toward one side or the other. I would say most of the media probably that majority of people in the United States are consuming is probably biased toward right or left wing. And I think that is another problem, certainly as well. But I don't know how journalists can expect to take their job seriously either, when Trump literally just he has an issue with the truth. He lied about the weather on his inauguration day. He said it didn't rain when it was raining, and just petty lies. And so this kind of information mix up begs the question, really, is ignorance an excuse? Is the fact that the media is showing us these trying to sway us certain ways, is that an excuse to not look for the truth and look at the situation plainly? Which is, I'm not trying to suggest that Trump means anything other than he says. Some of the promises he's made have conflicted each other, and he's lied a lot. And so I think in that sense, misinformation is almost a given to everyone at this point who's been dealing with him. I mean, he's lied on multiple accounts throughout the length of this Comey investigation. He refers to news outlets that are not considered very credible, such as Breitbart, and things like that. So I think that's my argument for that.
Right. I agree, right, to some extent. But misinformation is not the fault of the voters, and I think blaming that all, given the topic is all voters are racist, then that's not fair to put that burden onto them. At the point in which misinformation happens, that legitimacy of you to choose that individual is already skewed because you don't have the full information. So that's an excessive burden which they probably have to take. And as a result, many of these people are actually just going back against Trump and said, "You're lying, like you said you're going to do something about Obamacare, you're not. They said, like, you're probably going to like not bomb Syria, and you did." So a lot of these individuals are coming out, but this, at the point in which they voted, I think that misinformation will just skew them away, and now they're changing. So I think that clearly shows they're not racist to begin with. But let's also go on to the other issues, right? Because I think this needs to progress a bit further, and quite a few things. The first thing which I also want to say is that he was an anti-establishment individual, and like same thing like the Black Lives Matter and stuff, where they're going against anti-establishment. That is what the trend is nowadays. He was an outside candidate. The Republicans changed their view stance after 2012, after the loss of Obama, because they felt that they were losing touch. And at the point in which they started to lose these things, people like Ted Cruz, who tried to have they stall, which caused the shutdown of the during the budget discussion. All these other individuals just weren't the best candidate who represented what Republicans wanted. Trump was the outsider. Trump was the anti-establishment guy, and many individuals thought he's just the shake-up they needed. Right, like we see the Brexit vote. Many of these individuals aren't negative. They aren't hating. They just want to shake up the system because the system's just been so rigid. Right, like you had so many people like Clinton who's been in politics. You've had Bush who's been in politics. Like outside voters like Ben Carson was just getting better and better. And many individuals just want a shake-up. And I think that at that point where you just want a different system, it's not me being racist. It's me just wanting a difference for my country, and difference which I can probably see.
I think certainly. I guess those are valid points, and it's valid to want to shake things up, but also Donald Trump tends to have what we would call alt-right beliefs, and many of people who kind of support Trump have openly said racist things, or have brought Confederate flags to rallies and things like that, and that's just like an unacceptable thing to do. I mean, the Confederate flag, one could say it symbolizes America, but it specifically symbolizes America with slavery. It symbolizes the part of America that was founded on slavery and flourished upon the base level of slavery. That was all of the industry coming out of the South. And so I think just seeing things like this, like whether or not he is a good political candidate, I think if you voted for him, you must really consider again the things that he is saying and the things that he is allowing his supporters to say. And I think that not all of his supporters are the same, but again, you made that choice. You saw the rallies, you saw his other supporters, and you were willing to basically say, hey, I agree with this guy being president. And that's more than just policy changes. That also includes comments that he makes and this and that, and microaggressions that he may be performing in front of the whole United States, and everybody in office is just listening to him because he's the president. You really can't ignore that. That's going to have some damage done to the communities.
Right. So yeah, okay, so my time has started. Yeah, okay, so again, about this whole thing's about flags and rallies and stuff. Let's just recognize that not every individual who voted for him probably so is racist, and I think that homogenizing it is just as bad as probably homogenizing like all African American or probably all Muslims. So on that context, right, at the point in which I'm still voting for him, there is individuals who are going to vote for him based on race base, and that's something which is normal. But there are also going to be individuals who vote for him on other issues. And that is where this thing needs to prove, like what are the other issues and whether or not all of them are racist centric. A lot of things which was saying about being like Trump and like what Trump says. You can't say much now that he's president, right? That's something which is just out of your control. But the one thing I just want to make clear is that even if he said it in the most blatantly racist way. It is the way with which people are I want to hear, right? People are sick and tired of politicians trying to be politically correct because they wanted to protect everybody's feelings and try to make things all lovey-dovey and stuff like that. At the point in which someone is telling you the truth as they see it, that is the point in which I feel that that person may go into power and may make the changes which they want. Like in the French elections, that's how that in like Macron is just winning also because he's the outsider, which is trying to bring up the shakeup. I think at that point, it is fair for individuals who've seen career politicians go all the way through and go all the way to the top and just disregard middle income voters or like blue collar workers, something which Trump didn't want to do and was capitalizing on, clearly shows to you that Trump is going to that silent majority, that he is looking for those individuals who have been ignored. And those individuals need a voice, and Trump had that voice. Even if it's racist, they need that voice more importantly.
Uh, okay, I hear that. My my final kind of driving point, I guess, is going to be, from a social science point of view, when we're talking about racism, we need to maybe clear up what we're defining racism as. Racism does not necessarily mean that you have done something severe or bad. Just like we've said, there it's a spectrum. There are degrees of racism. So I think in that sense, everybody who is not a minority uh, does have internalized, racist notions. And I think that it's really important for us to just acknowledge that so that we can stop making minorities feel so uncomfortable and we can kind of come to some sort of resolve because there's no use really in saying, oh, well, this reason and that reason and, trying to kind of avoid taking the blame for these kinds of things. I think, if you voted for Trump, you are actively affecting a lot of minority communities. You're affecting Native Americans, you're affecting Mexican Americans, you're affecting Syrian refugees, you're affecting tons of people in the Middle East because of how Trump is kind of handling political affairs there, just which is a whole tangled mess anyway. But I think it's unfair to say that those people are not racist, just in a very basic sense, because I think that their actions are having and are going to continue to have consequences. And I think unless we acknowledge that, we're not going to move forward and see any kind of peace that these people are wanting, or this kind of change for the better at least.
Right. So to just respond to that, I'm going to bring in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that sounds like so weird in bringing this up. But the first important thing is physiological needs before moving on to other things. At the point in which Obama's or even all the relations before this were focusing on everybody else in the world and not so much individuals who are losing jobs, people who are losing national security, I think at that point people have the right to think about themselves first and not everybody else. At that point, it's fair for you to say that I want to worry about my safety before I worry about individuals in Syria. It's fair for me to worry about my safety before like try to worry about accommodating like other individuals from other countries finding jobs. And that doesn't make me racist. That just makes me someone who wants to survive in a very, very tough economy, especially post 08 financial crash, which many communities are just trying to just survive. At that point, it's important to understand that when you need to survive, you need to make sure those people who stand in power and stand in parliament are someone who essentially can vote for you. Clinton never got those individuals. So the point in which like Sanders did, but like when Sanders lost, nobody wanted to vote for Clinton. So those individuals had to go somewhere. It's either they didn't vote or went for Trump. People who were Republican had to vote somewhere because they didn't, although their candidate didn't win, like Ted Cruz or like Marco Rubio, they needed to vote someone, they voted for Trump. That doesn't make them racist at all. Individuals who didn't have the information to begin with, or because they just asymmetry of information, the way media works, and like just couldn't call him out until now, those individuals were never racist to begin with. People who voted Obama, but essentially switched, and all those especially flip states, because they couldn't see Clinton as a better individual because of like Benghazi and like the email scandals. Those individuals weren't racist. Those individuals just felt that the candidate which they had was probably just trying to cover up and was just a lesser of the two evils. So there are a lot more reasons to say that you can vote for Trump but not